so many times. This is when we say, I want to have another diploma, I have another certification. It's more away from the way of our ego to postpone doing our thing.
Yes.
And when you look at it, you can actually start already now. And that's what I did, even though I didn't start this business at that point, but I opened up the doors.
It's Retreat and Grow Rich, the podcast. I'm Darla LeDoux, best-selling author, coach, and retreat leader, and I'm on a mission to normalize transformation on the planet, one intimate retreat at a time. This show's dedicated to the coaches, consultants, healers, leaders, and light workers who are here to hold space for the truth that transforms lives and get paid for it. Expert retreat and business tips, strategies, stories, and magic. It's your weekly mini retreat delivered right to your ears. Let's do this. Okay, welcome, Carolina, to Retreat and Grow Rich, the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Darla. I'm so excited to be here. I just can't wait to get going and speaking about these wonderful things.
Yeah, and we're coming from across the miles, which is so exciting. And, you know, I love that you've implemented some of the same strategies I have, and we just met recently, and we're, studying from the same teachers and implementing some of the same things. And so it's really, really exciting to share your experience. But first, I'm going to let people know who you are. So this is Carolina Gardheim, or if you're spelling it, Gardheim, because we're going to give you her website in a little bit. So you may want to go check her out there. And she's an entrepreneur of 20 years and the founder of the membership program Shine Your Light Sisterhood and the Swedish company Creative Insight, designing inspirational books and products, and author of 20 plus books. I have my first book out, so I think that's amazing. One translated into English, which is Unleash Your Creative Spirit, the guide to building your dream life. She is a priestess, shaman, MBA economist, and certified coach with a mission to supporting creative women with heart who want to be leaders themselves and others. Leaders for themselves and others in the era of soul. And when I was reading through this morning, I was just so inspired by that, the era of soul, yes, to support these women to rise to their potential and shine their light in the world. Carolina lives with her husband and their 2 sons in Stockholm, Sweden, where she loves to paint, write novels that never leave her desk drawers, and always win at a family game of cards. I love that. She leads about 5 to 6 retreats in different formats for between 5 to 200 people every year in Sweden, Italy, and the UK. So, Carolina, I am just thrilled. You have such a breadth and depth of experience for people. Can you share a little bit about how you came to do this work? It sounds like you started with developing products and then transitioned into the work you're doing now. How'd that go?
Yes, exactly. I started out with a more traditional career. I have an MBA, as you read, and it just took me a few years into that. I was in my 30s. I think I was 29, 30 years old. When there was some part of me that realized that, okay, this is really not my place. Today, I can return to that later. Today, I think I know everything you do, there's a reason why you're doing it. Yeah. So I'm kind of going through the circle where I am today, 20 years later. But at that point, I was, okay, this is not me. I'm not a career person or business person. I'm an artist. When I was little, I just did everything creative, anything you can mention, anything, and I've done it. I've just explored so many creative venues. And at this point in my life, I actually stood looking into the mirror and I said to myself, this is a totally non-creative person. And I had totally shut down the like the right hemisphere of my brain, and all the creativity,
Wow.
and also my femininity, and like I was all left brain analysis, strategy, like, you know.
I'm curious, do you know why you shut that down? Because as a recovering engineer, I relate to that story. I started on my MBA and partway through went, why am I doing this? I was doing it because it was free. It was paid for by my company. And so I thought I should get this free training, and it didn't do it for me. So why were you so logical and, more in the masculine?
Yeah, it's interesting. But I think it has to do with like all the years in school kind of like prepare you for that. I don't know. Of course, there are different kinds of schools, but the like our school system and the schools I went to, like you start here you start at 6, and then all the way up to, I don't know, 22, 23 or something when you finish, if you go all the way. And all the time is the focus on, as I see it, the more left brain activities.
Yeah.
All the way. And then when you start working, I was also in a like male dominated organization.
Yes.
And again, that's it's like in the walls somehow. And it's so, since we are more, what I've come to experience, that we are more influenced by our environment than we think. We think we're like, oh, I do it. I'm so free, I can do whatever I want. But if you're in certain environments and with certain people, you will be influenced by them. And I think it's probably as simple as that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And also, of course, like the big thing that hit me when I because I crashed when I was I was 30 years old. I just crashed, and I was sick, couldn't work for several months. And at that time, what I realized, what dawned on me, was that I had tried to please others and tried to do what I felt was expected from me. Which, of course, what was I expected from myself, the super ambitious and like wanting to show my bosses that how good I was. And that really hurt, because I had always thought that I'm doing this because it's fun. I'm doing this because I love it. And then I realized, okay, no, only partly. I'm also doing it because I want them to love me. And that was, that was tough.
I so relate to that. Yeah, the part that was fun was getting the gold stars and the accolades and all of that. Yeah,
exactly.
How did you realize that you weren't committed to that anymore?
Of course, it was. I mean, I went straight into the wall, or I don't know the expression in English. But
hit the wall.
Crash landing into the wall. Yeah, the wall. And my body just stopped working, and I had to, like, what I did was actually I just felt that I threw everything I knew about myself and the world, like up in the air, and then like taking down only the things that I felt, oh, this is really me, this is truly me. I made lists of, like, what do I really love, what do I really like doing, and what are my dreams, if I could like dream of anything. And who am I? I went back to see what did that little girl that was me, what did she enjoy that I had forgotten? Like, all this creativity came up. And I started an education in graphic design, and it was like the most fun thing I'd done in years. I'd got so much energy, although that my body was actually sick. I couldn't work, but I got so much energy from bringing out my creativity again.
The hitting the wall looked like getting sick for you.
Yeah.
And do you see that a lot? I mean, you've worked with, thousands of women. Like, is that a wake-up call for a lot of the women that you work with?
Oh, yes, it is. And I think probably I'm attracting those women, so I see it a lot.
Yeah.
So many of us who we're going on, and we think that we're going to solve it, and maybe we start getting tired, but we don't think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. and we keep going and keep going, and then like one sign after another, and you like, oh, it's not that bad, and I'm going to make it. And then finally, you can't take one more step. You're burnt out.
Wow.
Yeah. So I see it a lot. Now, today, I also know, I didn't know that at that point, but I also know today that I have ADHD, which is something that will, if you're doing the right thing, it's a superpower. Like today, it's a superpower of mine. But if you're doing the wrong thing,
right,
it's more difficult for you. It's easier to be burnt out. Because when you're doing the wrong thing, not your thing, it takes too much energy from you. So I wasn't aware of that at this point, but that's one of the reasons too.
So you studied graphic design, and all this creativity started coming back. Yeah. And so how did you get into writing books and creating products and really being an inspirational force?
Yeah, it took a couple of years, or it took 6 years actually. But my first step was that when I got back and got my health back, after I started working again, I got back to my company after like 5 months or something. And then after like 2 or 3 more months, I felt no, because I had realized that one of the most important values for me was freedom and creativity and close relationships. And I wanted to make choices that supported those values. And so I decided that I want to be my own. I want to be an entrepreneur. And I quit my job, and I continued doing similar things that I did at my job. I was a project manager, and I did projects for like people I'd known since when working. So that was a smooth way for me to keep healing, because I was still a bit burnt out, and I could now manage my time better. I could work with the things that I enjoyed most, with the people I enjoyed most. I could work a lot from home. I could work a little bit less because I was a consultant. I could take more, get more paid for my work, for the hours. So I had 1 day a week where I choose, this is my creativity day, and the other 4 days I worked.
That's awesome. Okay, that's a great tip to set aside
because
for you for creativity.
Exactly. I thought, because my first, I had gone so many years in school, and when I found this graphic design course, it was only a 4-month course, but I was thinking, oh, do I have to go like 3 more years in school before I can continue doing this? And I felt, no, that can't be it. I've already gone so many years in school.
Yes, so. I hear that a lot. People who, well, I'm going to go get another degree, and, I don't use my degree.
Exactly. And I think I've come to realize when I speak to all my clients that so many times this is when we say, I want to have another diploma, I have another certification. It's more away from the way of our ego to postpone doing our thing. Yes. And when you look at it, you can actually start already now. And that's what I did, even though I didn't start this business at that point, but I opened up the doors of my creativity, and I honored my longing that I want to do. I felt that I need to do these creative things in order to feel good. So I did them, and I did it only for myself. I did like these little matchboxes that had all the insights on them, and I put them like on my table.
Nice.
Yes.
Will you bring me one? I want one.
For example, we have this little.
My wife has a Matchbox collection from places.
Oh, yes. Let me see, which one did I get? I have this one, Celebrate Life, but this is in Swedish, so it's Celebrate Life. And we have this one, it says Enjoy the Moment. So there are just a couple of examples. I've also made them in English. I don't know if I have any left now. We'll have to check that.
Okay. I'll learn Swedish. I am Swedish, actually, my heritage. So
Yes, you mentioned. That is so
yeah,
much fun.
I'll have to
Yeah.
visit sometime.
Yes, you have to. Yeah,
Okay.
so
So
that's where when it started. I did it for myself. And I had it at home, and my friends came over and said, "We love that. Can you do the same thing for us?" And I just handmade them myself. Like
yeah.
I didn't make any big production, just for me. And then like 6 years later, because in between I met my husband and we got a couple of children. And then one day in the bathtub, when the children were like 1 and 3 years old or something, it just came to me. Okay, well, the first step was, okay, I want to continue an education in psychosynthesis that I had started before. And I during that year that I took that training, I got these messages. We meditated a lot, so I got all these messages with creativity, with books, with inspiration, with speaking, and I thought, what am I going to do with this? I mean, this is what I do. What is this? And then one day I just got the name of the company like coming to me in a meditation, and I registered the website. And in
was
that
that
moment,
Creative Insight
yes, that
time?
was creative. Yes, it was. And at the same day as I had registered our website, this was 2003 in November, my husband came out home from work and said that he had been laid off from his work. He was one of the last ones to go from Ericsson. They had a big.
Wow.
So we sat up late that night drinking tea and discussing, okay, what are we going to do this together? Like, do something about this idea with my company idea. And yeah, we'll give it 3 months, we said. And here we are 20 years later.
That's amazing.
Well, not
Wow.
20, 2003, 15 years later.
That
Yeah.
is so exciting. That's amazing. So obviously it's worked out well for you. And as we both know, there are, ups and downs in the journey.
Yeah.
How did you choose, one of the things you told me is that you never really saw yourself in front of the room. So you did, products, and you're behind your laptop, and you and your husband are creating this thing, from the comfort of your home with all the freedom, but then, spirit calls. So what was that journey like for you to actually leading retreats and getting in front of the room? Because I think a lot of our listeners will relate to that. Like, where is this call coming from? That's not how I see myself. Is this really true for me?
Exactly. It was quite a long journey actually, because when I got burnt out, I struggled with this feeling of, as I mentioned, that I felt that I wanted to get confirmation and like people should like me and like what I was doing. So I had worked so much with like not seeking attention. Like, I'm enough in myself. I don't need people to like all the products I made like thousands of products for my company. Not one of them I've done because other people should like it. It's been so important for me that I'm doing this because I love it. This is what I loved. If nobody else loves it, I'm still going to do it. So from that space, I was like really afraid that if I'm going to go up on a stage, maybe will it be that I like go back to, I'm standing on the stage because I want them to like me, to like think I'm good at what I'm doing. So that was one big part of it. Another part of being introvert.
That's it. I want to stop there because that's a really big awareness to be able to think and be aware, like, oh, this is putting myself in a situation where I might have a tendency for, like, the way I think of it, for my ego to take over.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you were aware of that, and that was part of the fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you'd done such a good job. What I'm getting is you've done such a good job of nurturing your own intuitive connection, and you didn't want to risk that.
No, exactly. I was really afraid of being like thrown out of my, I felt that I've created my bubble where I felt safe
Mm.
and I felt happy about what I was doing and feeling good about myself and everything. And I was scared of like being thrown out of that and into that like ego world that I felt that I've left that.
Yeah. So what was that fear like? Like you're getting this call to be in front of people, but I can get the world of it. Like I'm comfortable, I'm safe here.
Yeah.
And a lot of times as leaders, we are called out of what feels comfortable. I mean, I'm feeling that right now in my own world. So what was
Yeah.
that like and how did you make that step?
Yeah, I've actually resisted it for a long time. Nor as nor as often is the case. My friends, like every time it came up, I would say to my friends, "Oh, now I got this thing coming. I get this thing coming in my meditations that I should like go out speaking more, or got this. Oh, I vision that I would do that in the future." And like every time I said, "Oh, I don't know why these keep coming. It's not for me. It's not, I don't want to do that." Well, maybe in like 20 years or something, like when the kids are all flown out and like
When it's
way
safe.
in the future. Yes. But then you know how it works. Like it comes back and it comes back. And for me, what happened was that in, let me see, 2012, we were in a situation where our company had grown so much and we had not like changed our organization. So I was really, really pressed of like with time. I worked too much and we had still the kids were a little bit bigger, but they were still, it takes time.
And what were you doing at that time? What were your main activities?
Then at that time, I was making the products, I was making the marketing, we were at trade shows, we were selling to stores in Sweden and Finland and some other countries. I was practically like doing everything in the business together with my husband. Of course, we shared it and we didn't have a lot of help. And I felt like that fall, I felt this is not worth it. It's not fun anymore. That's my feeling. It's not fun anymore. And I started this because it should be fun. This is what I'm doing for fun. So I took a quite bold decision. I decided that when I started in 2013, January, I said, okay, I'm going to work. Like when I start in the morning, it could be different, like 8, 9 o'clock or something. But I'm going to stop working at 5, no matter where I am and no matter what I'm doing and no matter how important I feel that this work is. And then I'm going to start working next morning and no weekends. And if this kills my company, so be it. Because I don't buy this anymore. It's not supposed to be like this. And what happened then, apart from me discovering that, oh, what do people do in the evenings? Like, should I have a hobby? A little bit like, oh. But what happened was that suddenly, like the energy started coming back to me. I got like the pauses in my life, and I suddenly got inspiration again. And I found people on the web that did interesting things, like coaching programs and e-courses and stuff that like it wasn't really a big thing. It did hardly exist in Sweden at that point. And I found some Australian and some American women that I was so inspired by what they were doing. So I started listening to like the Telejam interviews and realizing there was a big world that I didn't know about. I hadn't seen this world before, and I met women that spoke about like the feminine business model, and like I was, wow, these are friends. These are like this feels like me. And I found a coach, wonderful American woman whom I started working with, and at that time I really felt that was when the call was like really, okay, now is the time. Now you can't you can't hide no more. This is the time. And I took like tiny steps. This is the way to do it. I often get the question. So when you have the resistance, how do you do it? And I always say like baby steps, and don't push yourself. So for example, being on video was like my biggest fear. I would never do it. But I just started like reading about it a bit, and looking at other people doing it, and looking at some YouTube clips, like, well, what do you have to think about, and like not promising anything. I won't do this, even though my left side of the brain said that that's a smart thing to do because you're introvert and you are highly sensitive and you don't want to go out traveling the road, meeting people every day, but with video and YouTube, and you can reach people all over the world. So I understood that this is smart. And then like, okay, I can get...
So you're thinking, this is a smart idea for me, but at the same time you're saying, but that's too visible. That's not for me.
Yeah, it's too visible. Yeah. And I didn't think that I had anything to contribute. I didn't think people would want to listen to me, and like all of these, ego things coming up, and it's so easy to believe them. I was lucky enough to be surrounded by people, for example, my husband, who has always believed like tons more in me than I've done myself, who saw me like, you have to do this, you have something to share, and everybody wants to hear what you're saying. So I promised him just one tiny step at a time. Okay, I tried to make a 2-minute video that I shared with some friends in a Facebook group with my mastermind group. Okay, that worked out. Okay, I can do a 1-minute to put on the website. And after like exposing...
And now you have a 7-figure business, and you have people coming from all over to come get in a room with you live.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I mean, it's amazing. And I love how it just evolved organically for you based on what interested you and what your intuition was saying.
Yeah.
So I want to ask for some tips on retreats, and then I am going to ask, I'll save for the end, a little bit about becoming a shaman and weaving that into your work, because I know that's been a journey that I think a lot of our listeners will relate to. But you have small retreats, and then you have bigger retreats, and you kind of have a system for the way you do this now. So talk a little bit about like, what are your favorite, you went from, can I even do 2 minutes on a video that nobody sees, to getting on stage and that being like the best part of the work that you do.
Yeah. So now it's actually, it is the best part. It's what brings me the most joy to do this.
So talk about why and like the different, types of retreats and why you love leading them.
Yeah. I think I just want to start with explaining 2 things that was major in me daring to take this step. And the first was the realization, it was like a mantra for me when I first, like the first workshop I held, that it's not about me, it's about them. And it took so much pressure off me, and it helped me with this fear of it being about me. Yes. The fear I had that, it's so important that I'm going to look good and I'm going to say it right and I'm going to have all these brilliant ideas. It's not about that. It's what's happening out there in their hearts, what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, and how can I facilitate that? How can I be the tool that helps them?
Yes.
And that was like one of the most important things.
Because people usually, when they picture themselves leading, they're picturing what they're doing. What am I saying? What am I doing? How am I? And it the more I've led, it was probably a few retreats in when I realized like I needed to do very little, and I let go of my deck of PowerPoints and all my handouts, and I really started facilitating a conversation. And I talk about the retreat I did for many years. I had 3 principles that I taught, and that was it. And the rest was discussing it, practicing it, experiencing it. Yeah. So you went in kind of knowing that. That's amazing.
Well, I discovered it early on, and that's one of the reasons why I stood at that stage for the first time, like with the first workshop. That was the thing. The thing that took a little bit longer for me to really feel into, but has also helped me a lot, is the like if I get this urge that, okay, I should do this, there's something pushing me, it's a calling, then who am I to decide that I'm not good enough, that I won't do it like good enough? If like my guides, what I think of if they think that I should do this, why don't I trust them with that I'm good enough, that my only job is to do it. Of course, I should do it the best I can, but then stop debating whether it's good or not, or whether it's enough or not. If they say it's enough, it's going to be enough. Just trust that. And that helped me also so much. It's taken the pressure off a lot.
Awesome.
And then like when I have also with that trust comes that I also get help. Like as you said, really the lesser I do, the better. I just focus on keeping the container, holding space, and so much happens with the participants from that, just from that experience. And I just came to think of right before our interview, I was sitting just meditating for a moment, and I got this beautiful vision, because I was thinking like retreats, like, and then had this beautiful vision, because a retreat is like the group there is like a circle, right? And I saw this circle, all these circles around the world, and circles are also a wheel, it's moving forward. So I saw all of these retreat circles, like really being the power that moves us forward. Because so much more can happen when we join in a group compared to when we sit by ourselves. It's amazing, the difference. I know, I mean, you know it because you work with it. If someone on the call hasn't tried it, it's just amazing. It's, I mean, almost all of my own, like the biggest transformations, the biggest shifts internally has happened on retreats.
Me too.
Like
Me
being
too.
at others' retreats. Yeah.
How has it changed the results your clients get, or the way you work with your clients?
A lot, so much. I feel that we work at a much deeper level now than when I started. The shifts that happen, the transformation is so much deeper. They are actually like, I don't like ask for it, but they come to me and say that this is, I don't understand how this happened. And now suddenly this is so easy. And how come it was so difficult for all my life before? And now it just like, and neither of us can really say, this is exactly what happened. It's just that I provide this space, and they go in with their courage and open up to the space. And in that like circle, that amazing space that we create, there is everything we need, like the guidance and the downloads and the transformation and the insights. It comes through so much easier than when you're sitting by yourself thinking, wanting answers.
Yes, because we're creating that container for the insight to come through. And also, Carolina, I believe, even though, you know, we're just holding space, we're maybe facilitating a conversation of questions that people haven't asked themselves before, or haven't asked themselves lately. But it is their intuition coming through. However, it's also your energy. Right. So you're in a practice of connecting to your soul and hearing the insights and creating that container that when people step into it, there is this palpable energy. And it took me a long time to really realize that, especially because, you know, owning my high priestess is something that's been in recent years. You know, I've known I'm a healer for a long time in the way that I work, but a lot of it was an unconscious competence, if that makes sense. Like I didn't
Yeah,
fully
definitely.
understand what was happening.
Yeah. Mm.
And yet people would have a short conversation with me and they would get an insight that they've never, ever had before. And I didn't do anything, you know, but just be me and ask some questions. And so in the container of the retreat, and I love that you do this because I do this too. It's like the container, there's a distinct energy that so people have access to things that they maybe don't have access to in their day-to-day environment.
And that was also that was also such a big insight for me when I understood that, because in the beginning when I started doing this, I was so amazed because people were telling, like afterwards they were saying, there were so big words, like what's been happening to them and how they had felt, and the energy in the room, and it was like all love, and they had never been in such an environment. And I was thinking, what did I do? I didn't do anything. Where does this come from? I like didn't understand it at all. I was like, really, I cannot take this on because it's not you. I couldn't like process all the big words I heard. And then finally, when I understood just the thing that you're saying, that it's actually, some of us have this capacity of holding energy for others to transform. And then that's when I suddenly realized, okay, so that's why the most important thing for me preparing for an event or a retreat is to take care of my energy, and not exactly the words, like do the planning, I'm going to say this and then this. No, on the other hand, like more keeping space open for what's coming to me, because that's going to be like the most perfect. To have the balance of, yes, a couple of things, like you said, I have 3 principles, like, and then we go from there and like go with the flow and just prepare this energy. I work a lot with preparing the room before they come in. Like if they knew how much work I do when they're not even there, like cleaning and cleansing and clearing and calling in and bowing to their greatness, and like always seeing their highest good and inviting all of their guides. And but it's such a beautiful work, because like seeing a person grow in that way, in the trust, like from within, and not something like someone else have put on you and want you to do, just from like the realization. I get chills just speaking about it. It's the most beautiful thing for me to be a part of.
Amazing. So I'm curious, you made me think of an experience I have had countless times. And I'm wondering if you've ever had this. I've never talked about this before, but it's really cool. Have you ever had the moment when maybe it's the day before you're leaving a retreat, and I know you get in early and kind of connect to the space and all of that, which I've learned to do also. Have you ever had that moment where your ego or your brain is trying to figure out what to teach, or how, like, oh, I didn't, prepare this thing enough, or what, like, I don't know why every time I sat down to prepare for this, like it just couldn't do it. And now it's the day before and your ego is panicking. Like, am I going to die? Am I, is this going to work?
Yeah.
And you have to, like, literally, this is how I see it, literally give up that, like, oh, this was what I thought it was about, but clearly it hasn't come through. Let me just set that aside and focus on my energy and focus on my being. And trust that if I'm being the energy, that whatever that exercise was supposed to create, right? If I just be that, it will come through. Yeah. Have you had that moment? Because I've never talked about that before.
Definitely. What comes to mind, well, first of all, it's so funny that you mentioned it, because I had such a struggle with this. I'm a planning person normally, like always been. I'm like introverts, always plan ahead. And my guides really wanted me to understand that you'll get everything in the moment, and you don't have to plan as much. So for quite some time, and several years, always something happened right before that made me not be able to plan. So
yes.
Finally I realized, okay, I don't have to. And then
That's interesting. Yeah, always something happened. Like I remember the first retreat I was sick at, and I was like, oh, I can't hold the space. I can't hold the space in the same way. And I realized how much that was all in my mind.
yes, exactly, exactly. And then I came to think of a retreat I had last year, a big one. Well, we were like 80 women in the room, and the first session, I think it was first session or second, on the last day, I had nothing planned, and I just, well, normally I have an idea, like I'm going to do this, but the only idea I had, I'm going to do a drum journey. So, and then I thought that will not take like all of this. It was like 1.5 hours or so. So, okay, I'll just send them out, take a walk in the nature or something, like had this that was all the idea I had. I was quite like all the other things we'd done at the retreat. I was quite like, oh, I've done the planning well, like, and I had left a lot of space, and it was it was a beautiful retreat. But this, where I actually had nothing at all, I just made up the drum journey as we just what came to me. And then I just felt that, oh, I'm going to, because it was such a big group, I normally don't take people up on stage because it takes so much time. But it's the sharing is so important. That's the thing I enjoy most with small groups, that you can have a lot of sharing, and it gives so much for the audience. So this time I felt, oh, I'm going to take them up on stage, like one-on-one, one after one, the ones who wants to. And that was the session that everyone talked about afterwards, and the big shifts, and because we had the space, and this journey just, it was magnificent. So
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And it is the laser coaching, I call it, but it is those conversations. Yeah. Because someone's going to ask the thing that I need to hear, that I don't know I need to hear, that I don't even think to ask, right? If I knew to ask it, I would have probably solved it by now.
Exactly.
So that, there's so much value in that.
It is. And the person who are feeling, most people think it's a little bit scary to share or to ask, and think that it's just me thinking this. But it's always like we're connected in the group, and it's always like they pick up on something that are like half of the group will have the same issue. So they're just so grateful that you dared to ask. So
that's amazing. So you mentioned doing a drumming journey. So what has it been like for you bringing some of your more woo-woo, for lack of a better word, tools into the business? Because this is something you've practiced for yourself, but it's a risk. I remember, my first retreat, I put angel cards, oracle cards at the seats, and that was the extent of my woo, but it felt a little risky. Like they might think I'm crazy. So how's that journey been for you?
It's been a little bit bumpy, and at the same time, it's been really, it's happened so fast actually for me, this journey. It's like, felt like almost like an explosion, where I opened up and just remembered things from like lifetimes, and I didn't know of this remembrance of this knowledge that I obviously had. I didn't know it before. And it came with such force that I felt that, okay, it's meant that I'm supposed to share this. And as I am sharing my journey all the time with my tribe, my sisters, I felt that I need to share this from the beginning. So I even when it was like new and I didn't know where it would lead me, I started like mentioning little things here and there. And during that year when this happened, I had quite a few things happening with like clients that didn't match the new vibration, because the shift was quite fast. It wasn't for me. It wasn't because I've always been more like woo than maybe I've shown. And I felt that this time I want to be fully me 100%. I would not hold back anything, and if you don't like it, you have there will be someone else for you. I can't be what I'm here to be and do if I'm not showing all of me. And I always say to my client, like, everything you've got, all your experiences and all your dreams and it's all part of your mix, and you've got it because you are here to use it. So I really had to live that. And so I had a couple of incidents with angry clients and disappointed clients, and we had to
angry as you started bringing more of these tools in.
Yes, because they didn't want to be associated with someone calling themselves a shaman, because that's so scary.
Yeah.
So that can happen, but at the same time, you can then attract. What happened after that was that I attracted new clients that really resonated with what I was doing. So after that, like my best time ever.
Were you afraid in the interim? I call it the hallway, right? Because there's that pause where I think to a certain degree, it's getting all of our cells lined up energetically for the new thing. And it's also, giving us an opportunity to build our muscle and our confidence in our truth. Like, this is what I'm building, period. Were you shaken at all when you got some of that feedback? Because that's so scary for people.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And of course, like almost all of these journeys that happens, I had first gone through it myself. I mean, when I first discovered this, I was scared to death. Like, me, like, shaman, what is that? Am I going to leave my family and be like out in the wilderness in a tent and do like, how is this going to look like? I was like terrified, truly terrified. And I'm so glad I had a great coach, and I have great, like, wonderful friends who supported me, and my family supported me. My kids, they're just joking about Mama's doing her voodoo things, like, and so I was surrounded, and I could ask people about it, and I could learn. But so I had gone through all of those feelings. So when I met it and saw it, I could see, okay, I see the fear, I see it. And sometimes you can reach out to the other person and meet her. And sometimes you cannot do that. And that's not my call. Yeah. I can only send love and say, please go on and find your truth somewhere else. And then I'll go on my way, and I'm grateful for what's happened and what we've had. And then sometimes you can find an understanding, as with some other people who were also surprised, but then, this is exciting. Maybe, I should try that and see, I liked it. So
it makes me think of, I cut my hair a few years ago. And I was at this event, and I had, for years I've had all different lengths of hair, but I had like cute little bangs always, that swept sweetly to one side. And when I cut my hair, one of my clients freaked out. She was like, I don't know you anymore. Like, you scare me now, And
I have such a hard time finding you scary, Darla.
I know. But it was like
the last thing.
It was different than how she knew me to be, right? And then eventually she cut her hair, and so.
You see, I mean, that's the thing with the ego. It sees the opportunity to, there is something I can hang my fears on and have as an excuse to not maybe continue this journey of expansion that this person has led me through. So,
right. Because there was a certain reflection of her own, I think of it as badassery, right? Yeah. That came through, that scared her in that moment.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I love you mentioned, having a mastermind, having support, having your spouse for support, which we both fortunately have that in our lives. A lot of people don't. And so that's amazing. If people want to get some support from you, they resonate with what you're up to in the world, you have an ebook. Can you tell people a little bit about that, because it's stories of people like them, right?
Exactly. I feel so strongly now in the shift we're in. Like I call it that we're going from the era of the ego to the era of the soul. And for me, I feel called to working with women, but this is a shift that goes on in like every person, of course. What I wanted to do was to inspire other women who wants to step up in their leadership and service in the world, because on your own you can't, like, it's so difficult when you're on your own. Just as you said, you need support, you need to be in these groups and have other people with the same dreams and same longings and same fears to share with. So these were women that I've gotten to know, that are, all of them are leaders in different ways, and on this wonderful journey of expansion and transformation. And I want more women to step into that. Like the first step is to step into leadership over yourself in your life. But as soon as you do that, you're also an inspiration for others. And I also want women to step even more, like take also publicly more leadership. And I see that happening now. So in this ebook, there is so much inspiration from these wonderful women sharing both like fears and how they manage to overcome fears, and what they see now is important in this special time in human history that we are in now. So
amazing. So they can get that over on your website at Carolina Gordheim, or Gardheim, if you
Gardheim is easier,
.com, and we'll have that link over on the podcast page in the show notes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Any parting wisdom for people?
Oh, wisdom. Now you got that little ego thing sticking out. So, should I be wise now? No, I just want to say that any person who wants to experience riding on Aladdin's mattress, like the like that's my feeling when you're into this journey of following your soul. Like it's your heart is like you have like all these little butterflies in your stomach, and your heart is lit up, and you get so much energy. And sometimes it's scary because you're going down, and sometimes you fly up, and it's like amazing.
That's a beautiful visual.
Yes. And I think we need more of that, because it's pure joy, and it's excitement, and it's courage, and it's also, when we do it together, it's so much love and community. And I think that's one of the things that will help us on our way. And one of the ways to do that, to be on that journey, is to help yourself expand through going to retreats, or if you have the longing, lead retreats. Because I evolve and expand as much as my participants every time. I mean, so much is happening, like every time you meet. And it's an exponential way of doing personal growth and spiritual growth. So I recommend it to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carolina. I can't wait to see you in person and hug you soon.
Yes, we will soon. Thank you so much. Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Retreat and Grow Rich, the podcast. If so, please share your experience and spread the word. Also, please subscribe over on iTunes and leave us a fabulous review. It makes a big difference in helping to get the word out. And you can join me in my mission to normalize transformation on the planet, one intimate retreat at a time. You can find show notes from this and all of our episodes over at alignedentrepreneurs.com/podcast. If you'd like to understand the inner workings of my retreat-based business model and build your confidence in your retreat dreams, You can grab my book, Retreat and Grow Rich, over on Amazon. It's the entrepreneur's guide to powerful, profitable retreats. If you've been wanting to incorporate transformational retreats into your fabulous business model, but you're not quite sure where to start, hop on over to retreatleaderquiz.com. In this short 10-question quiz, you will receive your personalized results, one of 6 retreat leader archetypes that will show you what your strengths are as a retreat leader, the pitfalls to look out for, and even give you a sample agenda that you can take and make your own. Again, that's at retreatleaderquiz.com.